woke up this morning thinking about what has been the cost for all of us with social media and what it was intended for originally, what has it turned into by people that have a different agenda than maybe you and me, just keeping in contact with friends and family. Like, what has it turned into? And why do people why do people get off and why do people leave? Well, I understand why people are leaving, because there's some stuff on here like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter that, this is just terrible. But there's also something here that, what you and I may not have put together at first was that it would be used one against the other. So one person's opinion might be better than another person's opinion. And then social media would use the math algorithms to pit one against the other, to silence one against the other, and then to maybe even show your time feed to people who would want to come against you. That's some pretty jacked up stuff if you think about it. Like, you got somebody that you don't know that's like, I'm about to put this person on blast, and then use their whole platform to expose them to individuals who have a real bent for destruction, maybe even hurt and stuff. That's what social media, portions of it, actually turned into. But there's also something else about the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all these other platforms. They literally are, they're gathering stuff about you and me from our locations, from our bank accounts. They're gathering data that we never, ever thought was possible. And somewhere along the line, they started using the dopamine addiction of social media against the people who are a part of it. So all the billions of users on Facebook, imagine what Zuckerberg and his staff are doing. They're basically saying, you're my cash cow now, and I'm going to use you. So on top of pitting maybe friends against one another because they have different opinions, now, it's happening now for a while, but now it's like, I'm using your data, what you do. In fact, when I think it was Google bought a Fitbit, I will never use a Fitbit ever again for the rest of my entire life. In fact, I may not ever use any one of those apps for the rest of my entire life, just because it may not be worth it for them to know how many calories I burn, what my actual weight and height are. Maybe these tech companies shouldn't know that information. Maybe they shouldn't know if I have high cholesterol, or if I have a situation with my family that might lead to heart disease or stroke or whatever. Maybe these people shouldn't know that information. That's something just to think about. Because if you don't think about it, you put that information into some of these apps that you have seen the tech giants will use for crazy stuff. They'll just shut stuff down. They'll gather information. They'll put people on blast. Literally, you got to think through this. What have we allowed technology to become? And how is it that it's impacting us in ways that we could never imagine? Is it really a good thing to be connected that much to other people? So, there's obviously a drawback to every decision that you make when you go onto a platform, but there really are some real negatives to it as well. And I'm not saying, there will be a point where I get off of probably like Facebook permanently, as I see what Zuckerberg is actually doing. And then like I told you before, I don't use Google. I don't even use Google at my job. I do not use Google. So knowing these things, understand that there may be a point in time where you have to weigh what the cost actually is to you, your family, your livelihood. You gotta think through what it actually means to pay that type of cost, and how can it be a detriment to you? Maybe in the long run that you wouldn't even expect now. To find out that there's actually a Chinese company that's actually going to be using medical information against Americans. People thought that COVID was really just some pandemic. It's not. So just think through this. Like, what's the cost of social media, and how may that be a detriment to you in the future?